Good evening, folks. Ken Hovind here and the crew at Dinosaur Adventure Land in Lenox, Alabama. Beautiful day out there today. It is December the 27th, 2023. A couple more days left this year. Tonight, Whack an Atheist Wednesday. SciMan Dan, you get it again. I can't believe you did what you did. We're going to have to smack you over this one. Okay. Dan Rourke, not O'Rourke. Okay, Dan Rourke. SciMan Dan, again. You can follow us on Rumble, on Odyssey, on a whole bunch of places on Dr.Dino.com. Genesis Baptist Church. You can click them buttons and it does something, right? Okay, do it, whatever it does. Okay. Genesis Baptist Church, old-fashioned, independent, temperamental, fundamental, right-wing, radical, chicken-eating Baptist Church. Let's see, right here. Don't be deceived, the Bible says. Don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. Satan is the master deceiver. He fought against the Lord in heaven, and the Lord kicked him out. He was cast out. He deceiveth the whole world. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. You folks who believe in evolution have been deceived. We're here to help you. We want to get you back to real science. There's a creator, okay? We are straight north of Pensacola, 70 miles, in the itty-bitty town of Lenox, Alabama. We got 140 acres here. You guys will take the tour tomorrow. And again, where are you from? You told me Tampa. That's right. Good to have you here. Got a family this morning from Tampa left, so they come and go around here. Good to have you here. Let's see. God ought to get the glory for his creation. Here we are. SciMan Dan, December 27th. You can help us stay open for free. Join our 777 club. Go to Dr.Dino.com. Say, I like what you guys are doing. I'm going to help you give $1 a day, whatever you can to keep us going. Winning souls. 7.71 years we've been open now for free. I already got that in there twice. Let's see. Tonight, SciMan Dan is going to get whacked. This is based on the whack-a-mole game. How many have ever played whack-a-mole before? Ever done that? That's fun, okay? You put in a quarter or 2 quarters or whatever it is and whack the mole back down. Whack-a-mole game. When the mole sticks his head up, you whack him back down, okay? Whack-a-mole's fun, it's fast, and when they stick their head up, you see how fast you can whack them back down. When atheists stick their head up and say something dumb, whack them back down with real science. Real science. SciMan Dan, science. I'll teach you a little bit tonight, okay? Let's see. Even small children can learn to play and love whack-a-mole, right? Adults love it. I like it. Whack-a-mole, we wait for an atheist to stick his head up, make a silly claim that his evolution religion is true, and then we whack him back down with real science. Some have learned to stay down, some don't get it. You got to do it over and over. Dan is one of those. You got to keep after him. I kind of enjoy it. So the winner tonight, SciMan Dan. Daniel Rourke, also known as SciMan Dan, is a 40-year-old English YouTuber. Who debunks conspiracy theories such as flat Earth. And you do a good job at that, Dan. It's a dumb theory. You should debunk that. You should also debunk evolution, okay? He has A levels in maths, physics, environmental science, and geography, and B Tech in sports science. I didn't know what A levels was. This is the way they do it over in England someplace, okay? Advanced level, A level. Mathematics is a qualification for further education taken in the United Kingdom and occasionally other countries as well. A-level exams are traditionally taken by 17 to 18-year-olds. That would be what, a senior in high school here. So Dan, junior, senior level high school, he made it, graduated. But he calls himself SciMan Dan. Now, wait. Math, physics, environmental science, and geography. Okay. Well, SciMan Dan, some of the comments on his channel. I just got a couple. Then I'm going to play a short clip that he did about Matt Powell yesterday. It's hilarious when they trust scientists in data that they think supports their belief, but ignore them on things that totally refute their belief. Got to be talking about the evolutionist, because there's a lot of data that totally refutes your belief in evolution, okay? Andrew, as a Christian, I find it offensive when anyone tries to disprove science. Well, Andrew, we love science here. Its evolution does not belong in science class. That's a religion. Evolution is. You have to believe in it. It's not part of science. I find beautiful, logical, and fact-driven. I find science. Yeah, me too. Why are some Christians threatened by this? I'm not threatened by science. We're threatened by the pollution of science with this stupid evolution religion. I'm still waiting for an explanation of how any fish survived with all the world's salt and fresh water combining. Wait. Yeti. All the world was fresh water at the time of the flood. The oceans have gradually gotten saltier. So there's not a problem. Noah in the ark, the whole world is fresh water. Some animals haven't adapted to salt water in the last 4,500 years. Are the oceans getting saltier? BBC? Yeah. Dead Sea is 10 times saltier than normal seawater. Let's see. Robert Matthews says, as this process has been operating for billions of years, there's no doubt oceans have gotten saltier over time. In fact, the real mystery is how they aren't now saturated with salt, with the stuff, making them as lifeless as the Dead Sea. Well, Robert, let me explain to you. The reason the oceans aren't as salty as the Dead Sea is because they're not billions of years old, okay? They're about 4,500 years old from Noah's flood. So anyway, Dan the scoffer keeps sticking his head up, say dumb things. He knows nothing about the Bible. You keep whacking him, hope he keeps his head down or wake up before it's too late. And let's see. Dan, this is for your own good. Pay attention. All right. Bible said there would be scoffers in the last days who would be willingly ignorant, it says in verse number 5. They're willingly ignorant, number 1, by the word of God, the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water. They're ignorant of how God made the heaven and the earth, okay? They're ignorant also of the flood. The world was overflowed with water and perished. They're ignorant of that. And they're ignorant of the coming judgment of God. The heaven and earth, which are now, are the same word, are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. So the scoffers are ignorant of the creation 6,000 years ago over here, and they're ignorant of the flood, and they're ignorant of the coming judgment of God. Dan, a typical scoffer, is totally ignorant of all three. He doesn't understand what the world was like when God made it. He certainly doesn't understand the flood, and he doesn't understand the coming judgment of God yet, but he will. Okay. Fool said in his heart, there's no God. The fool said, there's no God. You're a fool if you don't believe in God. And I'll debate you anytime, Dan, anytime. Bring it on, okay? Bring your whole English crew with you, okay? Scoffers delight in their scorning. Okay, I want to get to Dan here, right here. Oh, Dan has done a lot of stuff debunking flat Earth. He's good at it. Thank you, Dan. You need to. The Earth is round, okay? Kansas is flat. The rest of it's round. But he attacks, let's see, Professor Dave destroys Kent Hovind. Whoa, when did that happen? I don't believe I was there for that one. Dan, I'm sorry, bring it on, okay? Taking on the biggest evolution denier on YouTube. It looks like me in the background, doesn't it? A little bit. Sure does. Hawaiian shirt and everything. Wow. Let's see. You don't want to visit this Creation Science Center. Talking about us a year ago. Why not, Dan? We might learn some real science. Come on. I'll give you the tour. Put you up in a cabin. Everything's free. We'll feed you, house you. Former science teacher doesn't know any science. Well, I don't know who you're talking about there, Dan, because I know quite a bit. Matter of fact, I'll debate you. Bring it on, okay? Popular evolution denier is unpopular. I think you got a contradiction there. How can a popular one be unpopular? Think about it. Learn some English, okay? Let's see. Evolution denier can't science. Not even a tiny bit. Does that make sense? Evolution denier can't science. Is that like can't walk, can't? I don't know. Okay, let's see. Kent Hovind tries to debunk SciMan Dan and fails miserably. Whoa, okay. Anyway, he's got plenty of stuff on me on his channel. So Dan, tonight you get the prize. Let's go over to SciMan Dan and, ooh, wow, he looks mad. Let's see. He's going to take on Matt Powell here for 10 minutes.
More interesting, as it read, Noah's flood is a fact of history.
Well, Dan, a whole lot of cultures talk about a worldwide flood. It's not just the Bible. I mean, there's flood legends. I think 250 flood legends have been discovered in ancient cultures. Were they all stupid? Were they all lying? Or could there really have been an event they talked about? Plus, there's geological evidence. I mean, you got an A level in geology. I think there's geological evidence. The whole world's been underwater at one time. You guys just don't think it was all at the same time. Here we go. SciMan Dan. Tinfoil hat. Very appropriate. Tinfoil.
Hello and welcome along to this Boxing Day edition of Tinfoil Tuesday with me, SciMan Dan. Thank you very much for joining me. Right, Matt Powell and his Noah's Ark video is the order of the day, so let's get on with it, shall we? We join Matt, let's remember, as he starts to tell us why he thinks that Noah's flood is a fact of history. In the center.
And Dan, let me point out, you think the whole world fit in a dot smaller than a period. as a fact of history, don't you? And you believe you came from a rock as a fact of history. And you believe you're related to a, let's see, what is SciMan Dan related to? I don't have him on my chart. Let's pick one. SciMan Dan, are you related to a mosquito? I'm going to give that a yes. I know you believe you are. Yeah, go ahead. Let's see.
Here in the United States, we find hundreds and hundreds of dinosaur graveyards. Each one of these dots that you see represents a graveyard that contains sometimes hundreds of thousands of fossils. Many of these dinosaurs are found fully intact, and we've discovered that they died from choking on mud.
That's not a fact, by the way. A credible explanation for sure, given the posture of the animal, etc., but far from conclusive.
Wait a minute. It's far from conclusive that they choked on mud. Okay. They suffocated. The neck is in an arched back position. I think a lot of scientists would agree they drowned in muddy water or mud. But anyway, doesn't matter. They're dead. He's pointing out there's a whole bunch of dinosaurs buried, a whole bunch of animals buried. How many fossils formed in the last 5 years, would you guess? Probably none. How many animals died in the last 5 years? Colonel Sanders killed a bunch himself, you know? Yeah.
And most fossilized dinosaurs were caused by mud or silt covering their deceased bodies. And it would have to have happened pretty quickly.
Dan, slow down. The mud or silt covered their deceased bodies. Could it be the mud or silt made them become deceased? Is that even a possibility? All these dinosaurs, sometimes thousands of them, died in the same area, and then they got covered by mud? Use your logic, Dan. Come on.
After their death.
And so you have to ask the question, what could cause a tsunami so big that it would encompass the entire United States, or at least half of the United States, and bury hundreds of thousands of creatures and sea life together, all in one large event?
Got a good point, Matt. There's not only land animals, but sea animals all buried together. Let's hear it, Dan. How did that happen?
That's not how it happened, though. And besides, fossil ages range from around 2.
Well, just saying that's not how it happened, that's not your, Dan, you're not giving an answer. I won't let you get by with that. And with me in a debate, call our office, 855 BIG-DINO, extension 4, Joseph, SciMan Dan, anytime. I'll debate him every day this year. Yes, sir. One topic at a time. Bring it on, Dan, if you want.
150 million years to 65 million years ago. For example, a T-Rex lived closer to us in time than it did to us. Ages range from around 250 million years to 65 million years ago. For example,
and how do you know that? Dan, you have been suckered into believing in that stupid geologic column, which does not exist anywhere in the world. You believe that the top layer of dirt's younger than the bottom layer, don't you? Would you please answer the simple question, if these layers are different ages, where did they come from? I cover this on video number, let's see, not that one, Alt F open. I got too many things going on here at the same time. I got to come over to this slide. One moment here, folks, okay? Debates there. You said they're different ages by 50 million years or something like that. That is pure propaganda, Dan. That's not science. Let me show you here. You guys claim that the layers of the Earth are different ages. This was all made up by Charles Lyell in the late 1800s. The geologic column does not exist anywhere. And you got A levels in geology. No wonder you got brainwashed, okay? Close friend with Charles Darwin. Here's the problem here, right here. There's no such thing as a geologic column. It doesn't exist anywhere. The layers are not different ages. Dan, if the top layer is younger, where did that material come from? Outer space? You atheists never answer that simple question. How can the layers be different ages? Let me get my sand art toy here. Maybe you can understand that one. If I flip this over, it'll make 10 or 15 or 20 layers in here. Are the layers different ages? No, they're all in here at the same time. If you shuffle a deck of cards, is the top card younger? No, they're all the same age. See, there is no geologic column. It doesn't exist anywhere in the world. It's fiction. If you shake up a jar with water and mud and other things in there, it'll form into layers in seconds. It doesn't take millions of years, and all the layers are the same age. I also cover, let's see, polystrata fossils. You guys don't touch this with a 10-foot pole. Petrified trees standing up, running through all the layers. Well, the tree was going to rot in less than a couple of years. All the layers formed in 1 year during Noah's flood. Dan, you need to watch my video series, okay? And then call to schedule a debate. Actually, you need to watch my video series and pay attention and learn how to get saved, okay, and go to heaven. But petrified trees that are standing up, running through all the layers, are found all over the world. It's not like there's one or two, there's thousands of them. Watch my video number 6 for more on that. Let me get back to Dan and let him ramble for a minute. PowerPoint. Whacking atheist. Dan, take it away. So you're wrong, Dan, that the Stegosaurus and the T-Rex lived at different times in history. All the animals lived at the same time, in man too, all of them.
A T-Rex lived closer to us in time than it did to a Stegosaurus.
That's just dogma. You're just saying that. It's not science. You don't know that, Dan. You're just presenting dogma, and your followers are going to fall for it.
No way that one event could bury the two of them at the same time.
There's no way one event could bury those two because they lived at different times. The problem is you're believing they lived at different times. There's the problem. One event did bury them.
Despite them both being found in the US.
There is no other option other than a global flood. And in order to get a fossil, you have to have rapid burial. And so that's the only explanation why we would find these dinosaurs buried and preserved in the positions that we find them.
If that was the case, then you'd be finding dinosaurs in every single area of Earth.
No, Dan. In a flood, things tend to get scattered, and some, with the water swirling, especially with the Coriolis effect of the Earth, you would have things swirling into piles. You would get piles of dead animals. Go any place where there's been a flood. Is all the debris evenly spread? No, it's scattered. It's in pile lumps here and there. You need to study a little flood geology, okay?
There are some areas where we find no dinosaur fossils at all. For example, there are large swathes of land in central Australia where we have found none.
Does that mean there are none there? Or none got buried there? Maybe they haven't been found yet. You don't know any of that.
And within some of these dinosaurs, we find preserved blood cells. Now, the blood cells were analyzed by different scientists, and we found that they actually died from drowning. And so, once again, you have to ask the question, what could cause waves so huge that they would hit in the center of the United States, all the way from the oceanic coast?
Well, 150 million years ago, the Earth's continents looked very different than they do today.
You don't know any such thing, Dan. You can't possibly know that. We know they were covered with water. It could just as easily have been 4,500 years ago in Noah's flood.
Most fossils that have been found are from animals that live very close to lakes or rivers. And
lots of fossils are found of animals that live nowhere close to lakes or rivers.
their remains recovered shortly after, or they died in the water. And this is a much more feasible explanation than the ocean reaching the entirety of the inland.
Noah's flood is the explanation for these things. In fact, it is the only explanation. And this is why we find whales perfectly preserved on top of mountains. Now, how could whales have possibly gotten to the top of certain mountains? This is also why we find whales in the desert.
Yeah, the thing is, Matt, those areas were not mountains and deserts when that animal died.
Bingo, you're starting to get it, Dan. You see, the whole world was covered with water. And at the end of the flood, the mountains arose, the valleys sank down, the water redistributed into what we have today, which is big puddles called oceans, and continents sticking up through them, okay? So the oceans formed at the end of the flood from the water running off from the flood. People say, where did all the water from Noah's flood go? It's still here, it's in the oceans, okay? So the mountains arose, and there are clams on top of Mount Everest. You need to study some science, Dan. Tell you what, I'll debate you, bring it on, anytime, anytime.
This is why we find clams that are in the closed position that were catastrophically buried on top of Mount Everest, 29,000 feet above sea level. We also find trees going through all of the different layers of supposed geologic time. People think that these layers are millions of years of different time zones. If you have a tree that was placed there at the time of the formation of the layers around it, that means that the layers are not millions of years of different ages.
Okay, first off, a fossilized tree is not an organic tree.
What? A fossilized tree is not an organic tree. I don't think you understand what you're talking about, Dan. See, when you don't know what you're talking about, it's best just not to talk, okay? Trees are organic, okay? And once it fossilizes, it's no longer organic, it's no longer made out of wood, it's now turned to stone. But it's running through all the layers. You're missing the point completely. The layers cannot be different ages, not by more than a few months. Or how long it take for a tree to rot? A couple years, maybe max. We've got a piece in our science center, piece of a petrified tree that was found standing up, and the bark is still on it.
And those layers are formed very rapidly, most likely from volcanic eruptions.
That's not volcanic lava, Dan. Study those layers. It's not lava. There's all kinds of layers. There's sedimentary rock, there's igneous rock, there's metamorphic rock. There's all the layers of your stupid geologic column form around these trees. Don't say it's all volcanic. You don't know that. You're just making that up to try to hide an embarrassing problem for your theory. The layers are not different ages. If the top layer is younger, where did it come from? Moving it from here to here doesn't change the age of it. Every molecule of dirt on the planet is the same age, Dan, whether it's 6,000 or 6 trillion. They're all the same age. Are they coming from outer space? How can the top layers be younger? You guys never answer that one.
We also find coal deposits that are over 100 feet thick.
Thickest one is 300 feet, I think. Pure coal for 300 feet. That'd take a lot of trees.
Now, coal comes from vegetation and different organisms that have been smashed together between sediments. How in the world are you going to get a coal deposit that's over 100 feet thick?
It's really not hard to see that swampland would cause really thick coal deposits. Is this really an argument, Matt?
That formed in swampland? Is that really an argument, Dan? No, that's dumb. Everybody that studies the coal, there's several types, bituminous, subbituminous, lignite. Anthracite. There's no question. There's varieties of coal. It depends how much pressure it's under. But 100-foot or 300-foot thick layers of coal is not going to form in the bottom of a swamp. Go to school, man.
This shows us that the pre-flood world was extremely lush. There was a lot of vegetation. There was large.
By the way, there's more coal in the world today than you could make if you took every tree and bush and blade of grass in the world and squeezed it under pressure to turn it to coal. And coal can be made in the laboratory in about 20 minutes, taking vegetation and squeezing it. Heat and pressure changes it to coal. If you took every tree in the world and every blade of grass and every plant and squeezed them, you couldn't make all the coal that's in the ground. Well, that's because today the earth is 70% underwater. When God made it, it was made to be inhabited and mostly inhabited, and probably large forests everywhere. That's where all the coal came from in one flood, Noah's flood. Dan did all that. You don't have an answer for how these coal seams form.
Animals, dinosaurs, that were all buried together with trees and with different organic materials and creating massive amounts of coal. Now, mountains themselves are great proof.
Now, you got coal, rock, like pancakes. Nice, neat lines. You'd almost think it was like the tide washing back and forth during Noah's flood, changing every 6 hours, 12 and a half minutes.
Of Noah's flood. If you look at the layers of some of these mountains, you'll notice that all of the layers are bent. You cannot bend hard rock. That means that all of these layers were moist when they were laid down, and then when the plates were moving, they were bent upwards as all of them were pliable and all of them solidified together in one event.
Geological folds around the world are all different ages.
No, you're missing the point, Dan. All the layers bent and then they hardened. If the bottom layer is millions of years older, it would have been hard rock, and so when it tries to bend, it's going to get little fracture marks in there, cracks. They're not cracked, Dan. Back up and show you again. Maybe you'll get it this time. All the layers are like a stack of pancakes. They got bent while they were still all wet, all soft. Then they hardened, which is why there's no internal fracture marks. Let's look at it again, Dan. Watch this carefully now. Go get him, Matt. Okay, right here. Push the button. PhD, push here, dummy. Got it.
As all of them were pliable and all of them solidified together in one event.
Geological folds around the world are all different ages, radiometrically tested. You just can't argue with that.
I can, Dan. Call 855-BIG-DINO extension 4. I'll argue with that. You believe in radiometric dating? You're still completely missed the point. All the layers were soft and all bent, and then they hardened. You're not getting it. I need my bigger hammer for this guy. Hang on 1 second. Dan, pay attention. You're not getting it. All the layers were soft, regardless of the age. They all are the same age. Whatever that age is, they all bent, and then they hardened. You are not getting it.
According to humanists, the plates on the Earth have only been moving about 1 to 2 inches per year. And these plates slowly create the mountains as one slides under the other plate. This could not have happened. These mountain ranges that we see would have shattered and broken. They would have eroded flat. You cannot bend hard rock. All of these rocks that we see on these mountains were all soft and moist at the time of their formation.
You understand, Dan? No internal fracture marks.
Ah, great, Matt. Let's see your master's and degree in geology.
There we go. Because you don't have a degree, Matt, therefore you're wrong. You're still missing the point. Is it me or is he totally evading the point? How can all the layers be bent and the bottom ones, if they were millions of years different in age, certainly would have hardened by then? But no, they all bent while they were all soft. Dan, you're not getting it. Pay attention.
And your paper that you wrote to explain.
So you don't have a degree, Matt, and you didn't write a paper, therefore it's not true. That's his logic.
How mountains are not caused by tectonic activity. We'll wait.
And that's why they're all perfectly bent many times. And you can see these beautiful photos of mountain ranges that show that they were created by a catastrophic flood and not millions of years of geological time. And that's why you find polystrata fossils connecting all the layers. That's why you find whales on mountains, clams on mountains, sea life on every single mountain on Earth. Why? Because the Earth was flooded. Because by the word of God, the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water. Because the world that was overflowed with water, perished.
Okay, great. So the Bible states that all high areas were covered, but everything that happened in the Bible happened in this little circle right here. How do we know that the Andes were covered? Or the Alps?
You're missing the point again, Dan. The Bible says all the mountains were covered. You see, Dan, when the water goes up to the top of a mountain, it goes over and it keeps going. See, you can't just talk about that little circle. If the mountains are covered, water spreads out, Dan. See, water is a liquid and it seeks its own level. If all the mountains are covered, the whole world was covered. Now, at the end of the flood, Psalm 104 tells us the mountains arose and the valleys sank down. People say, do you think the water was over Mount Everest? No, Mount Everest wasn't there. Mount Everest formed at the end of the flood. So yes, the water, it was over the whole world, and then the mountains rose up, and Mount Everest has clams on top of it. Petrified, closed clams, like this guy. Clams don't climb mountains very well. The world was covered, Dan, and then the mountains arose. Isn't it interesting that all the mountain ranges seem to follow the coastlines? Let's see. The Rocky Mountains follow the North Pacific. The Andes Mountains follow the South Pacific. The Appalachian Mountains follow the Atlantic. It's almost like they were formed at the same time because of the same thing. Like the plates of the earth are busted up and they're shifting around. One place lifts up, another place goes down. This becomes mountains. This water runs off. This becomes ocean. I don't think you're going to get it, Dan, but I'm going to try.
So the Himalayas, for that matter. Answer? You don't.
And I think that the most powerful argument of all is the fact that we find 10-mile thick pieces of rock from the Earth's crust that have been subducted rapidly 500 miles down into Earth's hot molten mantle. This rock that we found that's 10 miles thick, it's still cold even though it's surrounded by 5,000 degree molten rock.
Those subducted plates are still 500 degrees C.
Dan, listen to what he says. 500 degrees centigrade. Okay. That's colder than the rock around it. But what did he just say? And what did you just say? Let's see, back it up here a little bit. Let's get it here. So the rock around it is way more than 500. Now listen, Dan, listen. You ready? Here goes.
It's still cold, even though it's surrounded by 5,000 degree molten rock.
See, when it's 5,000 degree around it, a 500 degree rock is cold compared to that and would quickly heat up. How long would it stay, that 4,500 degree difference, do you think? How long, Dan?
Subducted plates are still 500 degrees C. They aren't cold per se. But what would be the reason for them?
You're missing the point. If they'd been there for millions of years, there wouldn't be that temperature gradient, Dan. How can you not get it? Tell you what, stick an ice cube in the oven and see if it'll last for, 5 years, let alone 5 million years.
Being cooler. Perhaps the fact that they were oceanic plates? Could it be that?
That's got nothing to do with it. If they're oceanic plates and they're cooler and they get subducted down into 10 or 5,000 degree temperature, they're not going to stay 500 degrees for millions of years. How can you not get it? I need a bigger hammer. Here, Dan, just for you. We're going to big out the big boy, okay? Now, pay attention. If the rock is 500 degree and it's sucked down into 5,000 degree, it's a problem, Dan, for your millions of years. Don't you understand science? SciMan Dan? Hey, Dr. Kent, the science gent, will explain it to you. Okay. Go get him, Dan. Let's see.
Now, could cold rock be sitting down in 5,000 degree temperatures for millions of years?
It's not cold rock.
There's no way.
You're missing it, Dan.
That's not physically possible. The only way you get cold rock that's 10 miles thick from the crust into the mantle of the Earth is from catastrophic breaking up of the plates and plates going under one another and literally getting subducted down. And if they're still cold, then it means that they have not been
cold relative to what's around it. Is 500 cold compared to 5,000, Dan?
there that long.
Again, not cold.
This catastrophic event of the plates moving extremely fast, continental sprint, did in fact happen, and they were rapidly subducted, these 10-mile thick pieces of rock. And if that happened today, that would cause a global flood. Imagine, just for a minute, if you had a 10-mile thick piece of rock that was broken up from the crust, that subducted. That's how we even get earthquakes, is by rocks and stuff sliding around and the crux of the earth sliding into different positions. That would have created another global flood if something like that happened today.
How can you be so clueless about geological processes and speak with such confidence?
I was going to ask you the same question, Dan. You are clueless, willingly ignorant of the creation and the flood, just like 2 Peter said.
Beats me. Well, I think we'll leave Matt there for today and say we're done and dusted for another Tinfoil Tuesday video. How did you like Matt's evidence there for a global flood?
I think it was pretty good, Dan. How did you like your evidence for saying there wasn't one? Clams on top of Mount Everest. How do you explain that? Billions of years. Is that your answer? Time solves everything? I feel sorry for you, Dan. I'd like to straighten you out. I'd like you to come visit Dinosaur Adventure Land. How many would like to see him come? Put him up in one of our cabins, feed him. Give him the best cabin we got when he comes, okay? Yeah, okay. If you like to run, Dan, I know you like to run. We got 140 acres. You can run around all 17 lakes. Run all you want. And then have a debate, sit right here, and we'll get 2 cameras if you like. And you can use all the PowerPoint slides. You can bring 30 helpers with you. There is no evidence whatsoever for evolution. It's a religion, and it's a dumb one, okay? Matt was right. There was a flood. There's 250 flood legends been found around the world. Are they all lying? They were a lot closer in time than you are to it. Maybe they knew about it from Noah. He might have told them. Noah lived after that flood. Let's see on my chart here. Noah lived after the flood for a couple hundred years. long enough to tell the story to his great, 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 great grandchildren. I bet it'd be kind of a family reunion every year to go visit great, 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 great grandpa Noah. Yeah. I bet he could, or Noah's son Shem. Oh, now, Shem, he lived long enough, 500 years after the flood. Shem lived long enough to meet his great, 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 great grandkids. I bet he could tell them the same story because he was on the boat. Sure, there's a lot of flood legends. I don't know how you don't get it. Okay, now one of Dan's followers made another comment I wanted to say. Let's see, whack an atheist. No, is it here? No, I'm in the wrong one. Sorry about that. Debates. Aha, here we go. Oh, DV. One moment, Dan. Okay. Let me get this one. PowerPoint not responding. Did I do it right? I think I did it. Shut Dan off. I like that pose. What was the other comment he made? Come on now, Hovind. One of his, got too many buttons to push here. Okay, let's take questions from the audience while I figure this out, brother. Okay. When I was in college, I got a geology professor to watch your videos. I know he at least chewed on the info. Well, good, Jason. Challenge them all. Any of you college students, all you college students, say, teacher, it's kind of not fair to have student versus teacher. Would you debate Ken Hovind? We'll come in by Skype or on the computer, and I'll do it tomorrow, any day. Take on all the college professors, one at a time. What's the best evidence for evolution? If they think the layers are different ages, which is what they teach in that stupid geologic column, I'd like them to answer the simple question, where did the top layer come from? If the bottom layer is 2.5 billion years old and the top layer, the Holocene, is only 10,000, where was all that dirt sitting for 2.499 billion years? Come on, guys, think. You got sold a bill of goods with that dumb geologic column. It does not exist anywhere. Oh, I think I got it to move here, brother. Yay. Maybe I can't show you on the screen, but I can at least read the comment that one of his people said. Oh, I love this one. Can I get that one up? 141? No. Yeti Uprising asked about how the fish survived in the salt water, okay? It's all fresh water. They become, some have adapted to salt water. You know, there's saltwater crocodiles and freshwater crocodiles, and they might have had a common ancestor called a crocodile. But the rest of that comment was how any plants and coral reefs survived under the ocean's new pressure, temperature, current. Most of all, if not all, the ark animals were able to breathe so high above Mount Everest. Yeti. Let me go, I'll use small words so you can understand. Okay. When the water comes up, the air goes with it. So if the earth were covered over Mount Everest, it would still be the same air pressure at the place where the air meets the water. See, the air rides above the water, Yeti, okay? Water is heavier than air. And so raising the water over Mount Everest would not affect the breathing at all. Today, if you go up 5 miles to the top of Mount Everest, it's hard to breathe because most of the air is below you. But if the water's rising, it lifts the air with it. So it'll be okay, Yeti. They were fine. That was not a problem on the ark. Okay, next. Here we go. Crybaby, good to have you here. Kent, why don't you think it's time for Christian intelligent design proponents to provide verifiable evidence for the existence and actions of their designer? Is it intuitive that there was a designer for this coffee cup? It's made out of clay. Did this happen by itself, Crybaby? Is there evidence that this was designed? Is there evidence that a fingernail was designed? One cell in your body is more complicated than the space shuttle. And you don't see evidence for a designer. I think you're willingly ignorant. Can't help that. Okay? I've been watching you for 30 years. I'm convinced you're the best creationist, period. Well, yay, thank you. I'm trying. I want to get 1 million more people doing this. I lived by Glen Rose and saw the fossil evidence of man and dinosaurs together. Yep, I've been there too. It's true. You don't need the fossil evidence, though. That's one. You also have historical evidence and intuitive evidence, and there could be some dinosaurs still alive, like Loch Ness Monster, Lake Champlain Monster. Watch my video number 3, Dinosaurs in the Bible. If there's some still alive, none of the rest of the evidence matters. Duh. You know, they've never found, to my knowledge, human and chicken footprints in the same rock strata. That proves humans and chickens did not live at the same time, doesn't it? Tell that to the chickens in our barnyard, right? Okay. Okay, one more, brother. Did the Catholics really claim Islam? There is a book on that. Is it still here? Did you take them all back? The books? You did? Okay. Yes, called The Prophet. Go on our Dr.Dino.com website. Look for it. It's a big comic book size called The Prophet. Yes, it gets all documented in there. The Catholic Church started Islam religion. To get them, they thought they'd be expendable. You know, they could use them as cannon fodder to go get the Holy Land back. And it backfired. Well, sort of. We don't know how they're all tied together yet. But yeah, watch that. They really did, Travis. Okay, that it?
Here you go. That's the last one.
What are your thoughts on Scientology? Depends what you mean by that. Most of the Scientology folks that I cover on video 7 of my series are the different religions and why I can't be one of those. I just like to know, what do they believe? And I'll say, well, I can't follow that, or I can follow that. I like labels on my can. So if you take a look at their particular doctrines, list all the things that they say they believe in. We'll take them one at a time. And I'll tell you, it might be true on some things. Okay, get seminar 7 or get the whole series. Whack an Atheist. Okay, we are on TikTok. I'm supposed to announce 75,000 followers on Facebook.
Correct.
Which means what?
It's just awesome. A lot of support. Thank you for your support.
Yay, thank you.
Yeah.
I got to start getting on Facebook. And then TikTok, when we get to 10,000, something happens. We get what?
We get studio access.
Studio access.
And we need 89 followers.
We have 9,920, roughly.
Something like that.
Need about 80 more followers on TikTok. So go do whatever you do to get on TikTok. We need, as soon as we get 10,000, something magic happens, and we get, okay. So after, and I answer the TikTok questions every day. I'm going to be doing a few of them. So if you want to get your comments quicker, might be a way to do it. Tomorrow night, comments on comments. You can call in with your questions. We need some more debates. We don't have any more this year, do we?
Not this year.
4. We only got 3 more days. Come on, you atheists, bring it on, just for me. Would you give me a Christmas present and come debate me? Huh? Crybaby will do it? Creationist crybaby. We got a couple more days this year. Why don't you debate me? Pick the best evidence for evolution, the best 3, and we'll do them one at a time. Where's the evidence? Why do you believe you're related to a banana and a fly? If you believe evolution, you believe all those things. Tell me why. What's the best evidence for that? Okay, thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Comments on comments. Bye.